Boom! Hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast Season 5. Never forget that to the best of us, protection's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. Enjoy. Boom! What's up, you guys? Byron Rodgers here with another episode of the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast. I've got Orlando Wilson of Risk Incorporated with me, and I'm excited about this episode for a few reasons. I've followed Orlando and this profile for a while that he's had on Instagram because it's had such great and informative content. I've reposted a lot of their stuff over the years. So it's an honor to have you here, sir. How you going? How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks for reaching out. I think we've passed a few times, but we've not really spoken. So we finally get to speak. So yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. It's an honor. Thanks for doing what you do and putting out really good, I think, informative content, but like the look and feel of it's awesome too. I appreciate the, the vibe, the way it looks. But it's awesome to link up with another content creator that's doing some really good stuff.
All right. Thanks. I think that these days it's something I never really wanted to get into, but I think you have to get into it these days. We've started throwing out more videos since December when my guys pushed me, Dionysus especially in Greece, pushed me to start doing the videos because we got a lot of content. We just need to get it out there, especially these days. Yeah. I think too, it's a little bit necessitous that we have guys that are really doing things, making content. I see some kind of, sometimes I see things and I'm just like, the internet, and many of the viewers don't know the difference. When I saw your page, I instantly was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like I can learn a lot from this guy, instantly. And so I always appreciate that. I'm glad you chose to take the jump. I feel sorry for a lot of the guys these days. There's so much stuff out there. And again, they have to pick and choose. And there's a lot of stuff out there. So there's some very good people still out there. But all I can say to be polite is you have to be very, very careful these days. Very careful.
Absolutely.
That's life, right?
Yeah, that is life. So one of the opening questions we have to start with, because they're dying to know, what's your background? How'd you get into this?
Sure. The whole I always wanted to get into this line of work since I was a kid. So I ended up joining the British military, the 17. I was in Northern Ireland, Cyprus, etc. I got out after 5 years, paid my way out. Then I moved to London. I was involved in, at that time, any type of security possible to put some money in the bank. And I moved on to event security, close protection, etc. Then I got into the investigations. I was in UK until 2001, and I moved to the US. I was in Miami for 18 years, or Broward County, 18 years. Huh. And again, I've always been in the security business. And if you're in this business, you're doing various things all the time. So that's the investigations. We also do the firearms training, the close protection training. So again, I've had my fingers in a lot of pies over the years, but that's what you have to do if you want to keep busy, right?
100%. I almost changed the title from I went back and forth quite a bit between executive protection lifestyle to private security lifestyle, because in all actuality, I feel like if you're good, you're doing a lot of different things, and it's not always the executive.
I think this is what people don't realize. If you're providing serious close protection, executive protection services, you have to understand investigations. Right. You have to understand residential security. If you've got a corporate client, if they're in industry, you have to understand the industry. Right. You have to understand every aspect of the security business. This is where, in reality, the close protection, executive protection business should be the top of the security world. Right. But there's a lot of things going on at the moment. But I tell people you can never stop learning, and you need to learn every aspect you can of the security business as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. You've got to know what it takes to secure the venue, the house. There's quite a bit of technical considerations. And then now we have this digital realm of
completely
vulnerability and opportunity and everything, so it's 100% being well-rounded. What types of things have you seen in the digital space kind of start to impact what you do and the clients that you're seeing?
With the digital, a lot of people are just worried about securing their data and securing, again, the main one people come to me with is their phones and communications.
Yeah.
And that in itself, I'm old school. I like everything low tech.
Right.
But again, people are on about their cell phones being hacked. Well, all you can do is, in my world, is reset it. But that in itself is a completely different realm.
Right.
People securing or computer security. We have to know the basics, but we're not going to be computer IT security experts.
Absolutely.
As far as stuff like listening devices and everything else, it's like, even from the investigation point of view, to me, everything's double-sided. Mm-hmm. You have to learn how to attack to learn how to defend.
Right.
But even looking these days with digital cameras, little surveillance cameras, you can pick them up for like, I don't know, it's like in US, $40, $50.
Yeah, anyone can get them. They're just, it's like a pocket item.
Little Wi-Fi camera, put it in somebody's garden, put it in a bush in somebody's garden. Right, that person can be monitored from anywhere in the world.
Right.
All you need is a hotspot, etc. So again, we have to keep up to speed on this. And I talked to how many guys doing residential security and asked them, how many times have you searched your garden for cameras?
Yeah.
They don't think about it. But that's where we're in. In my day, doing surveillance, it'd be somebody sat in the bush with a camera. Right. Now you put a camera in, etc. So we have to understand the surveillance stuff for defensive and offensive purposes. Mm-hmm. So I think the digital realm, it's going so fast. Mm-hmm. And we put some stuff out about drones and robots and stuff. That's going to be the future. And we're going to have to understand that.
100%. Absolutely. Absolutely. And on the res guys, man, I want residential guys. I wish they, I know that in the industry, sometimes they can look at them as like a JV to the EP, but man, being the king of that kingdom, protecting that kingdom, there's so much that goes into it if you do it right. Like that's like a whole, like a position, like you have your snipers, you have your demo guys, like this is something you really need to learn to master, the day-to-day operations and protecting that environment. Not only is it so important, it's almost like close quarters, like EP, CQB, because your client looks out their front window, you're in close quarters a lot, which is dangerous, A
lot that goes into it if it's done properly. But I think this is where a lot of clients get scammed because they go to security companies, and the security company will send them along a uniformed guard or somebody just to sit at the front of the house, and that's it. If residential's done properly, then there's a lot to it.
Yep.
And I say to the clients, I say to people, I put something out about this recently. Well, ask your security for a threat assessment. What assessment have they done on your building?
Right.
100%. And if most clients will ask their security companies this, the security companies will be scratching their heads thinking, what the hell's a threat assessment?
100%. 100%.
This is it. People need to understand there's a big difference between the executive protection, close protection world and man guarding world.
Right.
But people don't want to pay the money. Well, if you don't pay the money and you have problems, well, that's why you're having problems, right?
100%.
I think that issue with payment and standards is global. Mm-hmm. It's everywhere. But there's not all we can do is try and educate people, and especially educate the clients, because they're the ones getting scammed in the end. Either they're losing too much money or they think they have security. They don't have security. They just got a body. Right?
100%. Maybe a cool background. Maybe. Yeah. I absolutely agree, man. And that's one of the things I've been trying to fight from the inside of the industry, trying to create a culture where guys it's more than just a job, it's a lifestyle, like 100%. The stuff we do, the stuff you train people to do, this is what makes you a legitimate protector, seeking improvement, seeking learning. Yeah, man, 100%. And the battlefield's always changing. So the guy that just has a job and is stagnant is really turns into a liability as things advance. Yeah. 100%. Who are you at your core? Like, who is the man behind all the skills? Like, who's the guy who's had this career and is doing this work? Why do you do this work?
As I said, it's something I've always wanted to do. It's something that interests me. Mm-hmm. And I think if the security business is done properly, and we'll say security business in general, there's that much to it. And you're constantly learning, you're constantly improving. Mm-hmm. And I like challenges, and I get bored very, very quickly. And again, it's like there's that much I can work 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I work from the moment I wake up, I look at my phones, to the moment I put them down at night. That's it.
I love
and
it.
again, there's that much going on. It's like, as you said, it's a lifestyle.
Right.
If I had to go and get a regular job where I'm just sat somewhere, it wouldn't. I couldn't do it.
I'd die. Yeah, I'd lose it. I'm right there.
Yeah. But again, it's like the one. Yes, I enjoy what I do to an extent. It drives me crazy at times.
Right.
But again, I think it's a very interesting. I've done crazy stuff over the years. I've done stuff that I would never ever have thought of doing if I wasn't in this line of work. So.
Yeah, no, I talk about the protection DNA. Some people just have that thing, and this is what they love. It's and you say you love to do it. I think love is a good word, because 100% sometimes it drives you crazy. You get a client calling you in the middle of the night because the dogs are barking, and why aren't you guys? The dogs are barking. You're like, well, they're dogs, but at the same time, why are the dogs barking? Now you got to call your guys. Like, hey, you guys on this? What's up? You get those fly balls, to put it lightly. And you're like, what in the world? But then there's other times, when you're able to protect someone from something legitimate, and you can be that layer of protection, or just putting together the strategy, and then the client's back on the plane, and they maybe don't say anything to you, but you pulled it all off. It's good stuff.
100%. I think in a lot of ways, solving the problems, and when you do deal with serious clients, and I had people come to me over the years and they've had problems.
Yeah.
And once you, even from, let's talk baseline training perspective, you give them the knowledge and the confidence so they can walk away and say, okay, now I feel more secure.
Yep.
That's positive. And again, also providing the physical services and helping people out to say, okay, yeah, we have secured something. We've helped you solve this problem. You don't have to worry so much about X, Y, Z. Yeah, that's a big positive. But again, I always say to people that, and again, I'm a little bit of a whore as far as money is concerned, that costs. We'll help you. We'll do work for you 150%, but
understand. Yes.
But again, I think this is what a lot of guys are missing. It's like, this is a business.
Right.
It's not a hobby. It's not a game. It's a business. And if you're doing it seriously, one, you need to make money. Two, you can end up in a lot of trouble if things are done wrong, which a lot of people don't realize.
Right.
And yes, you can help clients, but you have to remember, if things go bad, there can be a lot of problems for everybody involved.
Right. Absolutely.
Boom. What's up, you guys? Here we are at the Executive Protection Essentials video series. This is kind of the only real world video series that I know of where we show executive protection operations out in the real world. This is a documentary style tutorial on how to execute EP ops on the daily basis. We have multiple different venues, multiple different agents. We work from FBOs, we work venues, we work in the vehicles, and you'll get the education you need to operate at a high level. But the thing about all of it is, what you need to know is this course will show you in-field tactics me and my teams are using to render high-quality executive protection deliverables. If you're thinking about getting in the game, this is perfect. If you've been in the game and you just are looking to see what I'm doing and want to learn some things from me, come on in. This course is going to give you a real-world look at what it is like to be an executive protection agent on the day-to-day on the operation. So come in, we've made it affordable for everybody, and take a look at what it is we're doing in order to level up your game. Boom.
What would you say is your general area of operation?
The main thing I do is more the low profile protection. And how can we say it? People that got issues, they have issues and we help them with their issues. There's a lot of investigations involved, a lot of research involved. And a lot of it is, a lot of people don't like to spend money. A lot of clients don't like to spend money. So a lot of it is educating the clients, consulting with the clients to say, okay, this is how you can do this yourself. If it gets to a certain stage, then we can supply you with people if necessary.
Right.
But I think a lot of people these days, especially clients, are more in need of guidance than anything else. And once they understand, and this is a positive for them, once they understand how security works, they can understand if people are sending them idiots and they're being scammed. Because a lot of times it doesn't take much. they can know more than a lot of the people that's been sent to them as apparent CP guys, etc.
Absolutely. No, the client education thing is huge. I wish we could do that at a large scale,
Yeah,
if by nothing else.
I think that's very important. And again, the client education usually means between them, okay, you have to build up a good relationship with them. And that also means that they're going to appreciate you. And again, back to money, they'll make sure you're paid. They'll make sure you're looked after.
Yeah, absolutely. And they value that when they understand that, What we need to do is we need to make another cool movie like The Bodyguard, but just have real stuff, like actual education in there. Because The Bodyguard is the level of general education that a lot
that's the thing for most people. That's what people think, right?
That's what they
like you say, it's not the calls at 2:00 in the morning. Well, the problem, this is happening, that's happening. Can you help me? And it's like, try.
Right. What would you say? I know you've done some things in the kidnap and ransom space. What does that look like? What does that look like on the EP side of things? What is a role of a protector in something like that? What kind of things are you seeing out there, or have you seen?
The thing is with the K&R side of things, to me, it's very intricate because it brings in all the different skills that are involved in close protection investigations, etc. And especially these days, you have to be very, very careful legally. In a lot of places, this is where people get misguided. They think they can run around and rescue people, etc. You can't. You have to work within the laws, so you have to understand the laws. We got drawn into this. I got drawn a lot into this when I was in South Florida because we was dealing a lot in Latin America, etc. So there's always stuff going on. So we used to get calls from people that had issues, and some of our people had issues. Again, our main role in the K&R is training, prevention, client education, etc.
Okay.
Sadly, if things go wrong, all that most people can do, there's no rescues, is they have to pay. That's it. And the issue is if they don't have the money, and you look at places like Mexico, everybody thinks the people that are getting kidnapped are going to be the high rollers, the top. Well, a lot of the people getting kidnapped are now the middle classes.
Yep.
And people that's just got anything.
Yeah.
And we've had it where people have called us up and, okay, you want us to help you. But again, we're back to business. This is going to, you have to pay for us.
Right.
And in some of the ransoms, they're not that high, $20,000, $30,000.
Yep.
Not really right for us to say to someone what is right for us, but okay, we want 10 grand down before we even start looking at things.
Right.
And a lot of times people don't have the money. That's the trouble.
Yeah. I want to make sure people understand this point. For all you guys that just want to go to Mexico and or want to go to some of these places because you're like, oh, it's fun and nothing happens. The primary targeted demographic now are people that can, if you can come up with 10, 15, 50, 40K, if someone put a gun to your head, express kidnapping style, and or your daughter who's there with her friends head, if you can come up with that much money, you're a target because you can't afford professional protection and you can't afford K&R. You don't have insurance and you can't get a team out there. You're a perfect target. And that is who is being victimized out there now. So
it's Latin America, it's the Caribbean, it's also parts of Africa. And again, this is something where the criminals are seeing this is easy money.
100%.
Very easy money. And again, the express stuff in parts of Latin America, you got people doing that. That's their full-time job, just expressing people. And again, for most, if they make 5 or 10 grand a week, that's huge money in some countries.
Right.
It's huge money in most countries.
Right.
But you go into a lot of Latin America, the Caribbean, that's big, big bucks. You did very well on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And law enforcement's not keeping up with it. And then real quick definition, express kidnapping for everyone listening.
Express kidnapping to me is more just exaggerated mugging. It's an exaggerated street crime.
That's a great way.
This is where the bad guys go out, they select a target. Usually the target is wearing too much jewelry, driving a flash car. They're drawing attention to themselves. So again, personal security, don't draw attention to yourselves.
Right.
Somebody's drawing attention to themselves. They get picked up off the street. They're taken to ATM machines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Empty the ATM machine. What's happening in a lot of expresses, if the kidnappers get hold of, open up the girl's cell phone, then they're calling up the families trying to get a ransom. The ransoms are generally not that high, but they want them quick. The express guys and girls are not going after the extended kidnappings. It's generally a couple of days maximum. That's it.
Yeah.
I know one case, again, Venezuela, some guy was kidnapped, British guy, and he was released after a day.
Mm-hmm.
He said his kidnappers were constantly on the phone trying to sell him on to other people for an extended kidnapping. Nobody wanted him, I take it, because he was a foreigner, too much hassle, too much press.
Mm-hmm.
But that's your express. And the expresses have happened in the US, happened in Europe, etc. They happen in London. So express is just your extended mugging, which everybody needs to be aware of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that stuff's been on the rise, man. And they just want you to empty out everything, and you will. I mean, it's literally your most viable option. It's a business, and you're getting taxed, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
Any good indicators, any good, picking these guys up in their hostile planning cycle, anything come to mind about, if you're a tourist, an American, an EP agent working a client, and you start seeing certain things, are there any things that you can warn people about?
Again, a lot of it is always keep a low profile, even down to making sure if you're going to, even if you speak Spanish, going into a lot of the Latin countries, if you're not speaking that local accent or local dialect, the locals will hear you and pick up on it.
Yeah.
So again, first of all, keep a low profile. And again, it's back down to counter surveillance.
Yeah.
You need to have a counter surveillance plan for hotels, residences, when you're on the street. And you need to be constantly watching for counter surveillance.
Right.
Tell people, even if you're coming back, say you're coming back to a hotel or a residence, if you've got advance, or even if you don't have advance, always circle around the area, not just the direct area, but a couple of streets out, check for vans, cars with multiple guys in them, etc. Somebody's going to kidnap you. It's going to take 2 or 3 people in a vehicle. So that's what you're looking for. You see people hanging around, vans parked up with people in them, drivers in them for no reason. Just keep driving. Get the hell out of there. Yeah. That's what you need to watch. That's the best thing you can watch out for. But in your threat assessment phase, if you pick up the client has a targeted threat, that's a whole different ballgame.
That's a whole plan. Yeah, absolutely.
Express guys, and again, this can happen to anybody. You're watching out, make sure you're counter surveillance. And again, you're watching out for anybody suspicious, multiple guys, girls in vans, in cars, etc.
Yeah, 100%. I think really you nailed it with the counter surveillance piece is just huge. Surveillance detection piece is just huge. Just who is watching you? Who is watching you, and what's their behavior? Are they in the mob mind of what's going on? If you're at a club, are they in the club, or are they watching? Are they paying attention?
Yeah.
Who else is watching? Are you at the airport? Who doesn't have an alibi? Who's not waiting to get in their cab? Who's just kind of watching?
Body language. What's their body language saying? Why are they there? But again, this is something everybody, when we talk about executive protection, close protection, everybody wants to do the sexy firearm stuff.
Yeah.
When it comes down to, surveillance planning, counter surveillance planning, the stuff that's going to actually keep you alive, keep you safe, people are, it's not, we'd sooner play with guns, right? But
no, it's, and I talk about this in my content. 80 to 90% of what you need to master are these soft skills, like understanding how to understanding body language. What's nervous body language? Understanding the baseline of social behavior in an environment, looking to see if I was going to conduct surveillance on me, where would I be standing right now in this place, in this hotel? Where can I see from these rooms outside, and these thinking this way and moving this way is really how can we keep a low profile? Are we going to rent the Mercedes, or can we just toss the client into minivans and get through here? These are the things that actually keep you off the X, so I'm glad you said that stuff.
I tell people have been doing this. They say close protection, bodyguards, the second oldest profession, right? After prostitution.
Right.
So this business has been around forever. So what we're doing today, people have been doing for thousands of years, right?
Yes,
the only difference about what we're doing today and 2,000 years ago is today we got technology. Today we got firearms. Today we got cars. But the basic tactics, street tactics, the spying tactics, the counter surveillance tactics are exactly the same.
Yeah.
I think you look at Sun Tzu, he wrote The Art of War in something like 50 BC. I'm sure I'm wrong on that, 500 BC or something.
Back in the day, as we would say.
And it's still relevant today, right?
Right. Yeah. No, 100%. The tactics for being tracked and surveilled are very, very similar, and now, the advantages is just they can put tech in place, like you were saying with the garden in the beginning. It's like, yeah, one of your vendors that makes minimum wage could drop a camera in wherever they want on property. And if you guys aren't doing your patrols correctly, aren't being diligent, that can sit there for who knows how long until they plan their attack, and that's the game we play now, not to mention. And then, while we're on surveillance, just a little bit more, just the digital layer of client behavior on social media, stories, checking in at locations. It's so easy now to track people. And as EP agents, you just have to know you have a target on your head, you just do. And, a guy like me, well, my arm says that I have money. It's like tattoos. You got to think these things through, when you go to these locations and try to figure out how to get that urban camouflage, even in your advanced work, see what people are wearing in the area and try and, match that baseline if you want to stay off the radar.
I had one guy come to me years ago and he was freaking out. He had a problem, but he was freaking out because the people that were threatening him knew everything about his house, knew where his wife was, etc.
Yeah.
And again, he was paranoid. So he's thinking, okay, they've hacked my phone. They've done this, they've done that. No, it was simple. They found his wife's Facebook account, which was completely open.
Yep.
Everything. That's why they knew.
Absolutely. Life cycle, all of it.
Yeah, it's the simple stuff. You take care of the small stuff and hopefully the big stuff won't happen. But if you're not taking care of the small stuff, you're wide open.
Absolutely. Let's switch lenses a little bit. What would you say about, and I know a lot of guys struggle with this in our industry, social dynamics of executive protection? If you had a new guy sit in front of you and he's going to be with a client, what would you say about, how to be with a client, how to behave, things you want to consider? How do you want to come across, representing our company? Or
I would say to people, and this is one of the biggest problems, being able to deal with people.
Oh, yeah.
I always tell my guys, be humble, be nice, be polite, but you have to be firm. There has to be boundaries.
Right.
If the clients start to push the boundaries a little bit too much and I'm being polite, then I tell my guy, okay, call me up, I'll speak to them. Because I've had it over the years and, okay, the clients seem to think, yes, we're paying this money. Okay, you're not paying the money for a bag boy. They're not going to be mopping the floor. They're not going to be doing that. They're there specifically for security.
Right.
But this is where I tell people there has to be a good relationship with the client. If there's no relationship there, you're going to have problems. I came across one guy on his EP courses, was telling his guys, you've got to tell the client what to do. The client's got to do this, got to do that. You got to take the client's passport. I was listening to this. I'd never used anybody from that guy's company.
Oh, no.
Obviously, never worked before. They're doing licensing courses out of one European country. But clearly he's never worked before. And it's like, to me, it's like the client's paying the bills. So you can't go telling them what to do. You can advise them. But this is where you need to have those people skills to be able to sit down to somebody and say, okay, this is what we need to do. Right. And they have to respect you. As soon as they lose respect or as soon as there's a problem, it's done.
Yeah. And you'll get ran over and they lose respect and they'll find someone they respect because protection is not a game. Especially if they're paying all that money and they believe they need you. And then you get these situations where they don't believe they need you, but they're being forced to have you. That's a whole nother kind of ball of wax.
That's the type of stuff I don't usually deal with, but I've dealt with some stuff like that over the years.
Right.
And that's a nightmare.
Yeah, I'm the same.
I've heard plenty of horror stories about that type of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Plenty of horror stories.
I'm the same way. When I was coming up in the game, you got to take everything. But the second you can start picking, it's a beautiful day. When you can court these clients and be like, you know what, I agree. Let's roll. I don't want to deal with that. And you can kind of, it's like
one thing. The stories that's come up, and I got a few stories on this from other guys, luckily, where clients have tried to lose them.
Oh, yeah.
I would say to me, why would a client want to lose the bodyguard? Well, the client, the guy's been stuck with. Say one example comes to mind, a teenage girl that wants to go out and party and her daddy says no.
Right.
And I remember one guy in London had such a job, good friend of mine in the day. And he was pulling his hair out because this girl was running away, trying to do this, trying to do that. And the father's like, where's she? He's like, I'm trying to find her.
Yeah.
It wasn't his fault. She's doing everything possible to evade him with the help of the drivers.
Yep.
So it's like,
that's not weird.
I tell people this business is that diverse that you have to have a very open mind when you're dealing with people.
Right.
Because you're dealing with people and dealing with people problems.
Right.
And a lot of their stuff can be weird and wonderful.
Weird and wonderful. And they're high authority people. They can make things happen, have what they want, create whole ecosystems, It's very interesting moving through these different worlds. But I think, what you said was really good, which is the humility piece is so important when dealing with the client. And you have to, because they have to look at you as a competent professional. And if that goes away, you've lost it. You've lost it. Have to maintain that, and you're going to make mistakes from time to time. That humility really keeps things, and you're going to have to tell them things they don't want to hear, probably from time to time. And when they know that you're professional first and humble, I think that really helps.
We had one job in Haiti. I had one job in Haiti years ago now. And the reason I went with the clients is the clients had already had an argument with the client they were dealing with in Haiti. Mm-hmm. And the company there said, okay, we'll provide you with security. And the clients come to me because they didn't from the start trust this company's security.
Mm. Okay.
And we had issues. I'll cut this story short. As soon as we walked out the airport in Port-au-Prince, you had some white guy there with their names on a sign waiting for us. And it's like,
not a suit.
If you Googled his name, he'll show up as some top research guy for communications, right? Mm-hmm. And this idiot was stood there with all the names on a piece of paper. And this is going back quite a while, but kidnappings was still high then.
Yeah.
And that was enough for the client to look and say he was bored. You know what I mean? He was like, thank God you're here. Yeah. And we had other issues on that trip. And within the first couple of hours, that company screwed up that much. The client was like, but again, this is where you have to have that rapport. And again, a little bit of education to the client, make them aware of when there are issues, make them aware of how to deal with things if things go wrong, right. Point out where there are problems. Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing is being honest. Mm-hmm. From a management point of view, if things are falling apart or you have to deal with stuff you don't want the clients to know, but you need to be honest with them, make sure everything's on track. But mate, this business is pretty simple, but it's complicated.
Right.
Absolutely. It can be very, very complicated.
Absolutely. It's almost like the security portion is simple, but the human aspect is fluid,
Then when you come into the management point of view, if you've got guys working for you, right, and you're dealing with everybody's problems, not just the client's problems, because how many guys, even though they don't think they're pains in the ass, they're pains in the ass.
100%. The royal court, I like to call them, the entourage, and it's all you, man. When you're the guy on the ground, you'll find that you're the fixer in most cases. So doing that is huge. It's huge. And then you spoke about, and I wanted to illuminate this for sure too. You spoke about, telling the client what to do and these different things. And I've worked with some agency guys that do protection inside of agencies. And I'm like, one of the first things I got to tell them is this is private security. You'll be able to render as much or as little security as the client wants you to. This is we're seatbelt security. You want me to give me my left, right lateral limits and I'll secure it. But if you want to leave the house, late at night and you don't want coverage, that's your choice, so that's huge. You want me to do this, you don't want me to do that. As long as you don't let them push you into like washing the boat during the day or anything like that, you got to understand your limitations in this game. You are not in charge.
This is what, again, people don't understand. It's a business. You're hired help.
Yeah, 100%.
I put something online recently that upset a few people. I said, you're domestic help. A lot of people, I said to guys, if you want to go out and start looking for work, look at the domestic staff agencies. Mm-hmm. Because yes, nannies, gardeners, drivers, housekeepers, and security. So that's, if you're looking for work, look in that area. And again, to work in those areas, you need to make sure you're polite, etc. You're up to speed on your etiquette. And again, you have to be like that anyway. You have to be, how can I put it? You have to have the people skills.
100%.
And I know one guy come to mind, even as far as hygiene.
Yeah.
You have to make sure you brush your teeth, you shower. I remember one guy I worked with, he used to stink, but it was residential. The boss liked him, no worries.
Yeah, he could get away with it.
But again, it's like, I got too many stories. But again, simple stuff like hygiene, if you're dealing with people, if you're dealing with clients, okay, you have to make sure that's up to speed.
100%.
It's something that you have to take into serious consideration. But no, being able to deal with the client and making sure there's a good rapport with the client. And again, I'm generally pretty casual with clients until there's a problem.
Right.
If there's an issue, then okay, listen to me. But up until that point, go where you want, do what you want. We're there. If there's a problem, then listen to us.
Right. Then I'll
we're not going to keep you. We're not going to be telling you, you must do this, you must do that. So we'll fit in with your lifestyle. Exactly. And to do that, you need people that can actually fit in with that person's lifestyle, which is a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have to find the right people. What you just said, I think is one of the major keys that I lean on in my business is, look, we're not here to change your life and make your life, the focus of your life, security. We're here to support and secure your daily operations and hopefully optimize your proficiency in what you need to get done. You can focus on your work while we drive you to work. You can focus on, knowing you'll get from A to B safely, and we'll focus outward on everything else. And that, I think, tends to be a winning formula for all you guys getting in this business. Awesome. What would you say about the differences? This is one I've been wanting to ask you, that you've worked in both parts of the industry. So major differences with overseas work and US work. What would you say about those industries and things?
The main thing is, I would say in the US, everybody expects firearms.
Oh, yeah.
It's a gun business.
It's gun games. Yeah.
And this is the trouble, even with a lot of clients. We've had it in other places. Somebody I know in Mexico, they were one of my guys in Mexico, security manager for a big company there. And he says, whenever the American clients come in, the issue is they want our guys to have guns.
Yep.
And generally, guns are very restricted in Mexico unless you're a narco, right? And they're like, okay, we have to tell the client, these guys, it's like, okay, we don't want guns. Guns can get us into trouble with the police, can get us into trouble with the narcos. We're not into getting into shootouts. We just want to make sure you're safe. If there's a problem, get you the hell out of there. That's it.
Right.
But I think the big difference between the US and Europe is the firearms issue. Apart from that, it's generally the same.
Same operation. Okay, good to go.
Here, Europe, you can move. But the thing is with the US is so big, and people from outside the US don't realize each state has different rules and regulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas in Europe, to some extent, firearms are very, very restricted, but each country has different rules and regulations. You have so much different languages, etc., different culture. But again, if you speak English, if you're polite, if you're well-mannered, if you got a little bit of common sense, it's easy to operate. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know they want to standardize. There are a lot in our industry. You already know where I'm going with this. They want to standardize our industry and what we do and our certification process here in the States. You guys have experienced that overseas. Any feedback, any thoughts on that?
The SIA has been a disaster in UK, and the standards that low, it's horrendous. As I said, I've just thrown a couple of videos out about this. It's like they're giving away the courses now to people who's been unemployed for too long. No disrespect to somebody trying to work, but that's the standard you're dealing with. The trouble is with standardization of the close protection business, it's that diverse. You cannot, and I think a lot of the people that's pushing for this are people from military and police backgrounds, right? The people that will be making the rules are from military and police backgrounds. That's got nothing to do with the commercial business. So again, you can't come in and standardize and say, okay, it must be done this way, it must be done that way, because the business is so diverse. Every client is different. Every environment is different. It's like I said something earlier. This is the close protection business, bodyguard business is the second oldest profession, right?
Yeah.
What's the first? Prostitution.
Hookers. Yeah. Prostitution, said properly.
Are you going to go in and say, let's standardize prostitution? You can only do this, you can only do that, it's the same thing. You understand?
This is interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting take on it. I like it.
But you're dealing with the people business, and it's just, okay, you're working as an individual, you're working as a team.
Right.
Okay, how you do residential, how you do your counter surveillance, how you do this. Everything's different. It depends where you are.
Yeah.
If you've been trained to operate in UK, okay, is that qualification going to be relevant if now you have to go to Mexico?
Right.
Completely different environment, completely different way of doing things.
And there's different client demographics every 10 minutes. You got your crypto millionaires, your green, the weed guys that are popping up. You got your faith-based guys, you got your corporate guys. There's just so many different client demographics we're dealing with. You got your valuables and armor transfer.
Yeah.
Just always there's different things going on all the time. I guess what I would like to see is some level of competence that can be judged that would allow us some of the liberties that law enforcement officers get with regards to gear and just, being taken seriously. And so if there was some level of training that an individual could acquire, like maybe even like an academy or something that would say, okay,
sure,
we at least know they're proficient with driving, medical, firearms, mission planning, and maybe some social dynamics that could help someone be legitimately looked at as a protector. I think that'd be positive.
I think it's having that as a base level.
Right.
And this is where I think the SIA tried this in UK, but it didn't work.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I think it's looking at, they've only brought in this year after 13 years where people have to understand conflict resolution. It took them 13 years to work that out.
Right? That's base curriculum, social dynamics, de-escalation,
basic stuff. And I said to somebody about this a while back, and I said, well, why are you teaching it? He said, oh, well, CP guys don't get involved in fights. It's like, okay, maybe in your world.
Maybe, I don't know what kind of work you've been doing, buddy.
Yeah, but this is where it's like, having a good base level, but again, a good base level in driving, first aid, that would make sense. But again, people need to understand that is the basics. Right. After that, you need to go on and do other things. And I tell people as far as training, go out and try a few different schools.
Yeah.
Because what works, as I said, is so diverse. So you pick up a little bit here, you pick up a little bit there, you take that knowledge back, and then you can work out what works for you and works for your clients.
Right.
Or even you've been taught something, you've seen something somewhere. Okay, maybe sometime in the future, that's going to come in and that's going to be of use to you. So this is where you want to bring as much knowledge as possible. Right. And I think the issue is with licensing, people are doing these baseline courses. And okay, I got a license, I know everything.
And now I'm good.
I know everything, I'm perfect. It's like, okay, cool. As long as you believe it, no worries.
No worries, yeah. Hopefully reality never tests you, which is the other scary thing about this industry, which is you might not get tested for years, and people think that's a sign of competence. And it's like, absolutely not. You just may have not been tested for years. You just may have not been tested. And if you're not testing yourself in training, you have no idea what you're capable of,
One of my guys said this recently. I was talking to Dionysus in Greece, and we was talking about a few things. And he said, okay, the thing is with most security managers, nothing ever happens. When it happens, they lose their job.
And it was a good run, and that's it.
So there's a big difference, I think, and this is what people don't realize. The man guarding security, which is just there to tick a box for insurance, and those people, I class us as those people that are actually providing protection.
Right.
Because we're protecting things that cannot be insured. People's lives, valuable assets they've lost, that are gone. So there's a different world. And the trouble is, a lot of people, I think this is where the security guard industry has come into the executive protection, close protection business and trying to standardize everything. Okay, you can have the security guard business at a standard, at a certain standard. But as far as the EP world, the close protection world, I would say it's going to be impossible to standardize because it's that diverse.
Yeah.
And if we're talking now about skill sets, okay, who would have thought how many years ago we're going to have to think about drone defense?
Absolutely.
In the future, near future, we think about robots, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So again, this is a constantly evolving business. And if you're serious about this business, you have to be constantly evolving with it.
Right.
Having a basic standardization, yeah, that makes sense. Like a police academy in US, yes, that makes sense. But that is a basic standard.
100%. And we get back to, this is a lifestyle. Okay. Like this is, you gotta continue growing and learning. No, I love it, man. What would you, any advice for new guys looking at the game that are wanting to get in right now? This is a hot question they're always asking me.
I would say you need to get, as far as training is concerned, you have to get your local licenses. Before you look at all the sexy stuff, get your local licenses, because they'll keep you out of trouble. You need to get the local licenses.
Yeah.
Then look at the areas you want to work in and get training from people that's actually got experience in those areas. If you want to be working, I would say the international stuff, that'll come in time. You don't want to jump straight into the international work. But if you want to work corporate, go get some training with people that do corporate. If you want to do celebrity, go get some training for people that's done the celebrity. And again, also pick up on your surveillance stuff, your first aid stuff, your driving, etc., as you go along. Yeah. But again, I would say, and again, people ask me, how do I get a job? Well, you have to start, one, get the experience, get the training, etc. Experience, I tell people, even doing bouncer work, that's good experience.
Some of the best training in the industry, in my opinion, real security training. Go be a bouncer.
You're dealing with problems. You're dealing with people, and you can meet people. But for some reason, a lot of people in the close protection corporate world look down on nightclub work, etc. Right. You're learning a lot on a daily basis, nightly basis.
Accelerated rate. You're dealing with drunk people. You're having to de-escalate frequently. You're having to think about your rules of engagements and policies and procedures. You get in a fight in the parking lot, that's on you, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to really think things through and manage.
Make sure it's an excellent place to learn. Hotel security. Why you're going to be working in those environments. You learn a little bit about etiquette, etc. Also black tie events, etc. So if you can get directly into the CP business, is look at other areas you're going to be working in where you can learn and also possibly meet clients.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, you have to start somewhere. It makes me laugh. I've come across people, security management people, they think, okay, what, you're just going to walk into that position? Obviously they did, because they might, I don't know how the hell a lot of these people got their jobs, but it's the work you put in when you're young. I'm old now. It makes sense. As I said, it's not doing, a lot of the jobs aren't going to be the most glamorous jobs.
Right.
But the jobs where you can possibly get your hands dirty are the ones you're going to learn the most from.
Hands down. And I think what you're saying is so good. I mean, I built my career by the grace of God from bouncing both times in California. Got pulled from a club, from a bar. Then I went to Florida and got pulled from, one of the nightclubs into the game. And it came down to social dynamics and professionalism, regardless of the environment. And you learn so much. And then you get on details with guys that are afraid to get their hands dirty. And you have this education, you know how to de-escalate, how if you have to put your hands on someone, you know how to sell it so it doesn't look horrible on camera. You understand 100%. Like to control your emotions while you're doing this. You know what I mean? Like you learn all these really important things. It's not about crushing the person, it's about achieving the mission safely, get them to a safe place, call the cops, do whatever you gotta do, and be a professional regardless of the stressors. It's huge stuff. And I respect the guys that come from that. That and the tour is another good place to learn. Go ahead.
I used to have guys call me when I was in London. In London, I had my fingers into too many pies, right? And guys call me up. We need somebody for a nightclub, a bar, etc. Do you have anybody? No, yes, no, whatever. And I remember calling up some CP guys I knew that only done CP. So I don't know how they eat, right? They got how they ate. Their mother must have been feeding them, right?
Yeah.
And I remember calling these guys up saying, okay, I got some work. Do you want to do a night's work, etc.? No, we're not doing it. Why not? It's door work. Yeah, we could get her. Okay, if I said I got a high-risk job somewhere doing CP work, you'd wonder, yeah, we'll do it. Okay, but you're afraid to stand in a bar.
Right.
You're afraid to stand on the door of a bar and possibly get involved in a scuffle.
100.
I remember one guy said, I don't want to get glassed. Okay, but if you go to, okay, let's say we go to somewhere in Africa, you're dealing with people with machetes. So they're not going to glass you, they'll chop you up.
Right.
So if you're afraid to do one, you're afraid to do the other in my books. That's it.
Exactly. It's just that at one you will be probably tested, and the other one you probably get a free ride. You might get a free ride, and everyone knows it. But hey,
and I think this is the thing. There's too many people in the business that's had that free ride.
Yep.
As we said, they've never been tested.
Yep.
And if they did get tested, they're going to, well, if they don't start crying to start with, they're going to fall flat on their face. That's it, right?
Yeah. And then
I won't mention names. I could start mentioning people, but I'll be nice.
No, I love this. This is so good. And I agree 100%. And two, also what you said that was great was, get training in the area of the industry you want to be involved in. And it serves multiple purposes. You get to know those trainers in the environment. You get to know the other people at your class, your networking. And then you have a more dynamic, aimed resume at what it is you want. You can say, I want to work these types of clients when you talk to these companies, because this is the investment I've made in my training to go in this direction. And you can get into this industry and make decent money. Guys are going to college for years and going years in debt to have careers, and you can drop a few $1,000s on a few different courses and you can start getting in the game. And I think too, there's a lot to be said for becoming really a student of the private security game. Because when I was coming up, and even still, man, sometimes I'd rather have a school or a church or a venue where I don't have to worry about a specific client. Sometimes it's nice to secure an environment or secure a movement where you're not in the car, playing Russian roulette with social dynamics and client questions and things. Sometimes it's like, hey, I'm just hanging with the boys. We're going to make sure this gets to where it's getting safe and we're good, and that stuff's nice. But I think becoming a student of the game is really important. Earning your stripes is extremely important. And there's networking that happens all along the way of that ladder that you end up building, I think, your career off of.
It's about experience. And the only way you're going to get the experience is to go out and get it. Mm-hmm. And even like you're saying about the training, it's like, make sure that the people that's training you actually have the experience. They're not just some of these guys that, they tick the box to become an instructor.
Right. Or like these the retired that started a school however many years ago and they're teaching you what they were doing in the 80s, man.
Yeah. So again, it's make sure the people you're training with actually understand what they're training you to do. Right. It's not just, they've done some PSD stuff in Iraq and Afghan, no disrespect. Right. And now they're trying to teach CPEP for people working in US and Europe. Completely different ball.
Completely different. No, I love it.
If you get the training, check out the people who you're training with and get the training from people that's going to work for you and make sure they have the experience to be able to teach it. It's all experience based. Once you got the licenses, it's the starting point. Mm-hmm. Now you can start learning. Go out, get your hands dirty, do what you got to do, start putting money in your bank and working your way up the chain. That's it. That's
the path. NGOs and private security applications in those, how are you seeing anything in that space? I've been thinking about getting involved in that world. I've got some requests and different evacuations and different things that I've been able to join forces with others on. But the application of private security in that world, are you seeing things? Any comments on that?
NGOs they're a hot topic. I've dealt with quite a few NGOs over the years. They need security.
Right.
The trouble is there's a clash of cultures.
Okay.
Because a lot of the NGO people see private security as a threat. They're thinking mercenary, they're thinking cop, they're thinking this, they're thinking the hooligans.
Right.
Where you got, let me put this in simple terms, you got the good guys, people that see they're good guys, and then you got us.
Right. They're seeing liability. And
they want to help people and they see us wanting to break people.
Right.
And again, this is where it's down to the client under the communications with the client saying, look, you need security. We can work with you. We can help you, help protect your people, et cetera, et cetera. There's a problem. We can help extractions, et cetera. But again, I think the issue with the NGOs is the culture clash between security. Mm-hmm. And this is where a lot of the stuff the NGOs do, They don't want too many people to know about it because it could get them into trouble. Everything the people I've dealt with is legal, but it's sensitive topics.
Right.
So again, there has to be the confidentiality, and they don't want, how can I put it, the ex-cops turning up that still thinks they're cops, or worse, even worse, the security guys that think they're cops,
right,
coming up, sticking their nose in and causing too many problems.
Right.
So again, the NGOs, yes, their people need training, their people need security, because a lot of them are going into very shady places, very hairy places, doing good things.
Right.
But the main issue with the NGOs is the communications. There has to be trust there. And I think that's where you have to build the trust up with these people to start with. Say, look, we're on your side. We're not going to cause you problems.
I love that. And it really is ultra similar to client interactions, social dynamics, gaining cultural equity there, making sure you're doing security in a way that helps the client's mission, not hurts the client's mission. Staying in your lane, you know.
This is the thing, and what a lot of people wouldn't get is a lot of these NGOs, the security people cannot have firearms.
Right.
Big no firearms thing. Why? Because they don't want to be seen if they're going into, let's say, areas where there's conflict, of supporting one side or the other.
Right.
And this is where if you're caught carrying a pistol, it's quite easy for somebody to say, one of the locals to say, okay, you're working for whoever, you're working for whoever. So again, this is where it has to be, it's more of a brain job than a muscle job.
Yep.
Again, it's back down to understanding where you're going, understanding the people, understanding the culture, and it's all for de-escalation and avoiding the problems. Absolutely. Because I've had people say, I tell people now, I've written about this, okay, say you're in Mexico, you got a 9mm on you, right? You drive into a narco roadblock. How many guns have they got? What good is that 9mm? That gun's going to get you killed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're stopped by the cops and you don't have a permit for that gun, and I know people say, oh, we go to Mexico, we can't. Well, best of luck to you. You're stopped by the cops, you got an illegal firearm, you're going to jail, unless you can produce big money very, very quickly.
Big money. Yeah.
And I know most security guys aren't going to be carrying that type of cash to buy their way out of jail. That's it.
Right. It's a liability. No, 100%. No, that's good to know. That's definitely a realm I'm starting to dip into a lot more. So it's just good to understand kind of the dynamics around that. You posted a video the other day, and it consisted of, we'll put it in the podcast, close protection drills. Some of the traditional, drills, and then laid out a revelation in this video I thought was amazing. Can you talk about some of that stuff? What guys are training versus what you were seeing when you were doing those pressure tests, and kind of the conclusion you guys arrived at in that video.
That video is quite a few years old. We done that years ago. And again, all it is airsoft. So the guys, we come off paintball because that was hurting too much. So I'm all for when we're training, for people to feel a little bit of pain.
Yes.
That way they remember things.
Oh, pain retains. Pain retains, as we say in the Marine Corps.
Pain retains. This is where, let's be in the States when we was doing the courses there, we used to get the guys, okay, they're doing their sexy CP drills, jumping in front of the client. And I have people all the time saying, oh, we jump in front of the client, take a bullet. Okay, their mindset changes when they start getting hit by little BBs.
Oh, yeah.
Because they hurt. And you see then people don't want to jump in front of the client because they get stung by BBs.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a little bit of training to say, okay, if you're worried about being shot by a BB gun, would you want to jump in front of a client and get shot by a real gun?
Yeah.
And the answer is This is where a lot of people forget as well. If you're a bad guy, you got to always look at things from the bad guy's perspective.
100%.
You got a client with two BGs, right? Your target's got two bodyguards. Who's the first people you're going to kill?
The bodyguard. 100%.
But this is where a lot of the training scenarios is geared towards the bad guy going for the client, not the bad guy killing the bodyguards first.
Yep.
Right?
Absolutely.
I tell people, if I was a bad guy, I'm looking at a CP detail. Okay, the first thing I'd be thinking these days, can I roofie them? Can I drug their drinks? Can I drug their food? Even spike their drinks with laxative. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be able to protect the client if they're stuck on the toilet, right?
Right.
Now the client has no protection. But back to that drill, we done that to show people that a lot of these CP drills are not going to work.
Right.
if you're not doing the counter surveillance, if you're not aware of what's going on around you, if you're not dominating the area around the client, if you think you're going to deal with something on the street, your brain is going to go from comfort mode to all of a sudden, okay, you're going to have to deal with a hostile situation. By the time you realize what's happening, you're dead.
Right.
So that we've done that video, as I said, to just show people, okay, a lot of this stuff being taught is not going to work if this is all you're being taught.
Right.
You have to put this in conjunction with, I use protective surveillance a lot, but you're going to have to put this in conjunction with your counter surveillance and situational awareness. Yep. If you're not doing the counter surveillance, if you're not aware of what's going on around you, you're wasting your time. You're just a victim.
Absolutely. And that's like when you're naked, like when you will be in dangerous situations, but I mean, there's just so many layers before the physical stuff. You know, it's like mission planning. Like, have you planned this event to get through it the safest way possible? Are you able to use the back entrances? Are you able to stay away from the public? And then, you know, you get to like, how am I moving with this client and things like this? And it's like, I did feel like there was a little more success once the agent stopped trying to protect the client initially and actually just attack the attacker.
Yeah, take out the threat.
Yeah, just attack the attacker, deal with it.
This is where we years ago, okay, push the client if possible, get them out of the way. And I've had people say, oh, but you want to jump in, you want to protect the client. If you're not going to have the time.
Right.
If you're trying to draw a weapon, etc., you're not going to have the time.
You're drawn on a
so
drum.
Again, a lot, again, yeah, I was summer training. That happens a lot in training, right? I've seen guns flying all over the place. But this is it. You're not going to have the time to do a lot of these sexy drills.
Right.
So again, get the client out of the way. But what we teach is the nearest person to the threat deals with the threat.
Yep.
And you have to deal with that threat first, because that threat can kill you. If you're thinking about, I'm going to do this sexy drill, this fancy drill, everybody's going to end up dead. If there's a threat, if there's a problem, armed, unarmed, the nearest person to that threat will deal with that threat. If we're working with another person, that the second guy, a second CP guy, will move the client to a safe area. That's it. But whoever's nearest the threat, deal with the threat. No sexy drills. If possible, push the client out the way. Client's briefed that there's a problem, run. Get to a safe area. That's it.
One of the best martial arts in the world. Faster than you move, baby.
Yeah.
Run.
Moving targets are harder to hit than stationary targets, so move. That's it.
No, I love that stuff, man. Bring in some, and I was Mike Pannone, who's a very well-known trainer over here. He said, I was Mike Pannone or it was Craig Douglas. Both of them are legends in our game, but they said if it can't be tested at speed or close to speed, and you can't get repeatable results, don't trust your life to it.
Yeah, 100%.
Like range katas that we do, you know, close protectable katas that we do on the. Listen, if you were pressure testing these things, if it can't be tested at dang near speed, and you can't get repeatable results, don't trust your life to it. Keep playing with that equation until you can find something you can depend on. This
is where I tell people, ask, and again, clients, students, etc., ask. If you think something doesn't make sense, ask.
Yeah.
If you're doing a drill, test it. Because I see a lot of weird and wonderful things people are doing. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
And it's martial arts are all good training. I'm not going to bash martial arts in general, but it's like you see the 20 guys attacking the one martial arts expert that's flipping them all over the place, the Aikido guy or whatever. Yeah, it's rehearsed.
Right.
So we can come up with a rehearsed video, a choreographed video, and it will look super sexy, right?
Right.
Okay, if we don't rehearse it, it all falls apart.
Absolutely.
So there's a big difference. And I think this is one for guys going to training schools. Always question what you've been taught. Always question the instructors. If they cannot give you an answer, then there's a problem.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I started my school is because I just remember kind of going around the training circuit and being like, so much respect to a lot of the instructors, but I just remember kind of being like, man, when's the last time this guy, has been out in the field? Because what we're talking about is, the relevance and has this person done this, and I just have been real diligent to make sure I have instructors that are doing it, have done it, literally took a break from work to come out and teach and go back to work, You want that fresh experience, man. It's so important to make sure we have integrity with what we're teaching.
100%.
Favorite subject to teach for you?
I'm into cameras. I like surveillance.
Okay.
Surveillance these days.
Yeah.
Not just counter surveillance, but also surveillance, because to me it's double-sided, and there's a lot of you get on the street with that these days, and it's challenging. It's good to teach.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people. We take people on the street when we're doing this stuff. So again, it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for me, once you're teaching people surveillance and they're watching and following a target, again, it's all double-sided.
All of it.
They should understand then that somebody could do that to them.
Yep.
And a lot of people don't realize how easy it is. Your unaware target, you can follow them around all day. Now we're throwing in the cameras and everything else. It opens people's eyes.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. The best way, I think, to learn, well, really, I mean, for us, I mean, even in mission planning, always think like the enemy, period. But the best way to learn surveillance detection is to try to execute surveillance, because then you just know what to look for. When you pull a cleaning move, you know what that person, the choice point they're going to have to hit. Like, do I try to sell this and keep just walking straight, or do I redirect? Or you look at them and they, because they're dealing with that.
Body language, flinch.
Oh, yep, 100%.
Yeah.
I jammed a guy
Every time.
I jammed a guy up a few weeks ago, man, that followed me from a gas station to the shooting range. I think, just what you said. He looked at me and he was like, "Oh, cool guy, cool tattoos, cool car. Probably going to I had some of my shooting range stuff on because I was going to go to go compete." And I think he was just like, "I'm going to follow this guy to the range. I'm going to break into his car and I'm going to take his stuff, take whatever he doesn't have with him." So I'm getting to the range and I notice this car is still behind me, and I'm like, no, and then your ego wants to kick in, like, this guy following me, and then I'm like, but I mean, he is following you. So I pull into the range, he pulls in, and I was like, well, let's find out. So I just did a little cleaning move and took a lap around the island, and he kind of just did exactly what I figured he would do. Boom, pulled nose into a nearest parking spot, and started looking down, and I came back around the island. I stopped right behind him and I just stared at him in his window, and you see the nervous behavior. And if you don't recognize that, and I could just feel it. We locked eyes for a second, and then I pulled over to my buddies and told them what was happening. He pulled right out and beat feet, man. But that's the type of stuff. And what kept me safe, situational awareness, and a little bit of competence as to understanding what someone would be doing if they were following me, and what I would be doing if I was following me, and what it would look like.
It's another thing. I think people look down on it when we say being streetwise.
Right.
Especially the corporate people, because they're too busy being corporate. They don't want to talk about street stuff. Right. But being streetwise and understanding how you can be targeted, understanding how to deal with somebody, and some people de-escalates. It said some people, I got other stories about this, if you front some people, especially, it sounds like the person you're dealing with, if you look at them and say, okay, you want a problem?
And then, yeah.
And now you've just reversed things back on them, and they're thinking, I'm going home. I don't want a problem.
Looking for an easy target.
Go somewhere else.
Right.
But the only way you're going to learn that stuff is to go and do it. You have to get the experience. You have to understand how this stuff works. You have to understand how these people think.
100%. What's the hardest? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the only way to do it is to go out and do it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to learn this type of stuff doing Udemy courses. You're going to have to go out and actually go and work. Yeah. Right. And again, it all brings money in. But again, doing the bar work, the club work, the hotel work, the event work. Again, you're putting money in your bank, and you're getting the relevant experience and the skills that further down the line you're going to be using. That's it.
And you're becoming a legitimate protection professional. It's not something you learned on YouTube. You're actually becoming the thing, through experience.
No quick fix.
What would you say about the hardest lesson you've learned in the field?
Dealing with the media.
Oh, really?
Really.
Of course.
And the you put out there, etc. We got hammered years ago in Mexico. I've had a few media issues over the years.
Okay.
And that cost us a lot of money, caused us, we avoided the problems. But as I said, all aspects of the business. And that's one thing I never dealt with because it was never going to happen to me. And if you Google us, we were accused of torturing. I'm the only tourist that's ever been accused of torturing Mexican police. Right?
Oh,
so that's a good thing.
This is exotic. This is interesting.
So,
torturing Mexican.
If you Google us, there's still some stuff out there.
Yeah.
But again, it was all BS. It was all a media spin.
Yeah.
But that cost us a lot of money, caused us a lot of problems.
Wow.
So since then, I worked out, I learned how to deal with the media. And since then, we've had other problems in other places, media related, and just how to deal with the media and say, make sure you've got somebody you can call to give your side of the story and understand what they want, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But that is another aspect of the business, especially these days, I think is very important. Mm-hmm. Even down to what we're doing now. Can you communicate? Can you put your message out online? We're doing this to promote our businesses. We're doing this to put knowledge out there to people. Yeah. But again, you have to understand that part of the business, especially if you're in management. Absolutely. Especially.
No, that's good stuff, man. Because you upset the media, you upset the paparazzi. One, they know their rights, they know their moves, they know what they can do. And two, they're social engineers. They will socially engineer a story. This is what they do. It's like a superpower, and you're just a handshake guy, and they're constructing this whole thing behind the scenes. And now your client, your whole world takes on a different shade if you don't know how to counter that or strike before they strike and things like that. It's interesting.
Just making sure you got all your ducks in a row. Your story's good. Mm-hmm. And this comes down to none of your people's doing anything stupid. And it's not giving them the opening. Exactly. And if there is an approach, okay, how do you deal with the media? Can you properly deal with them? Do you have a counter story? Right. Do you have something to go in there and say, okay, we got some defense against this?
Right. Because
our clients in Mexico didn't want us to say anything. And the whole thing went viral.
Oh, yeah.
This is a long time ago now, 2008. Mm-hmm. And we were everywhere. Wow. And again, it's like at the time, we're just sitting there taking it. Sometimes you just got to take the hits, right?
Yep.
Okay, we'll take it, no worries. But after that, I was like, okay, this is something I don't know anything about, but I need to learn about it now.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Let's build
that was another angle. Yeah.
Nice, good stuff, man. Good considerations, especially now when everything's recorded all the time, everywhere. You gotta be a pro. You gotta understand. You gotta write the police report before you get it. Before you do.
100%. 100%. This is where even a lot of guys don't understand police reports. Yeah. Understanding how to word a police report and write a police report and how to deal with the police is essential wherever you are.
Yep.
One thing, people going to firearms courses, etc. Okay, that's one part of it. But if you're going to a serious firearms course and they're not telling you you need to know this, or they're not teaching you that you need to know this, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
Because again, anybody can get into trouble. You need to be able to get yourself out of trouble or stay out of trouble.
And get home and stay home afterwards.
Yeah.
That's really, and understanding those rules of engagements and then also understanding what you're going to say and do. This is the art behind the art, 100%. We run our guys through that training quarterly. Like, you got to know what you're going to say next and all that stuff. Proudest moment in this game?
I wouldn't say I've had a proudest moment. To me, it's business.
To me,
it's something which is constantly ongoing. I'm not going to say one thing I've done is like brilliant.
Yeah.
Because I've had we've had plenty of positives, plenty of negatives, and it's ongoing.
And it's ongoing.
And it's going to be ongoing till they put me in the ground. That's it.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. That's good. That's good. One habit that you would say people should consider that would make them a better protector or a better person?
Being aware of your environment 24/7.
Yeah.
Constantly looking for surveillance. Constantly looking for constantly aware of people's body language. And that needs to be, I'm not going to say a habit, as we said, it's a lifestyle. You need to be doing that 24/7.
Yep.
Always aware of your environment, always aware of people watching you, always aware of people following you. That's
100%. Yeah. And and it becomes, and for all you guys that are like, I don't know if I can do that, it sounds paranoid. It becomes you. It becomes the way you move through the world. You automatically take a position with, tactical superiority in the environment. You sit in the right spots, you face the right things, you look at people differently, you listen to them, but you're actually watching them as well. Like you become this It's like the first time you drive, you're all overwhelmed by steering and shifting. Now you're brushing your teeth and you're sending text messages when you shouldn't be while you're driving. You just give it a while. That's a big one. And then finally, what's it all for? At the end of the day, how would you like to be remembered with your contributions?
What's this all for? It's for business for me. This is it.
I'm picking that up.
I say I've been going to get out of this business for the past 20 years, but I'm still here. I don't think I'll ever get out. What's it all for? It's the way I live. It's what I do.
Yeah.
That's it. I can't say it's for me. It's what I do. It's what I've always wanted to do, even though I've hated the business on multiple times and going to be try to do other things a few times, but I've always come back to it's what I do. That's why.
Just who you are, man. It's just who you are. I love it.
Sadly. In the next life, something else. In the next life, I've said my wine, art, or something. No disrespect, but the chicks in the art world tend to be a lot hotter than the chicks in the CP world.
Absolutely. Far and away.
I'll leave it there before I cause too much trouble.
Right, we're about to go viral, y'all. What about and then finally, what are you up to these days and where can people find you?
They can find me online. These days, I'm coming to a close of something I've been working on for 18 months. So these days, we're starting up the training courses again. We might be back in the US by the end of the year offering training courses there, most probably in South Florida again. But what are we doing? Doing what we always do. We're here, working with a few clients, doing a few courses.
Nice.
Same.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Website.
Best way to find me. Look online, look for Risk Incorporated at Risk Inc. and we'll pop up somewhere. Yeah.
Outstanding. We will put the links to all the things that we can find on you in the show notes. This has been an awesome conversation. Real chewy, lots of good stuff out there from the reality of the game. It's been such an honor, Orlando. Thanks so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure, mate. Thanks. And it took time, but thanks a lot. All right.
Yes, sir.
Nice finally talking. Okay.
Yes, sir. Likewise. You need anything, you know where to find us. And
yes, man.
I'm sure.
Yo, if you're a private security professional wanting to take your game to the next level, go to executiveprotectiontrainingday.com to check out my personal success package for private security professionals. Check it out, executiveprotectiontrainingday.com. And remember, y'all, hard skills do save lives, but soft skills get you paid. Boom. Boom. And to support this podcast, go to executiveprotectionlifestyle.com and contribute to our Patreon account. That Patreon account is what helps me make this podcast possible, contributing to this brand, what we're doing here, making it so that I can bring better guests on, making it so that we can plan more events and just expand the contribution to the private security industry and also to making America a safer place. Do whatever you can, contribute whatever you can, because it makes all of these things possible. Thanks for those contributions.